Coming up on the next episode of Zuzu All Grown Up.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
You're now listening to Zuzu All Grown Up.
She's been featured in more than 20 films from the early days of film and television.
He is a psychotherapist and her loving husband.
Together, they are on a mission to brighten your day and your life.
It's a time to smile, a time to laugh, a time to expect more.
It's time to get inspired with your hosts, Karolyn Grimes and Dr. Chris Brunell.
It's time to meet Zuzu, all grown up.
As Christmas envelops us in its warmth and wonder, we invite you to dive into the spirit of the season with our special episodes of Zuzu All Grown Up. Whether you've been eagerly awaiting this time of year and feel ready to embrace all its majesty and grandeur, or if you need a little help to embrace the joy surrounding you, our episodes are crafted to ignite the spirit of Christmas in your heart. We aim to make this Christmas truly transformative, much like George Bailey's in It's a Wonderful Life, ensuring your Christmas story unfolds miraculously this season. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from all of us at Zuzu, All Grown Up.
We want to take you on a journey, a Christmas journey. More specifically, a journey into the spirit of Christmas. It seems Christmas comes earlier each year, but the real question is why Christmas ever goes away to begin with. Every day can't be Christmas Day, but the Christmas spirit could and should be with us every day. It's then, when we've learned the true spirit of Christmas, that, as Dickens put it, you can truly say, I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. You can have that same spirit without a visit of ghosts on Christmas night. That's what we hope the result of this journey will be for you. By introducing you to individuals who truly embody the Christmas spirit, we aspire to deepen your own Christmas spirit, enriching not only your holiday experience, but uplifting your everyday life with greater merriment and brightness. If Christmas ends for you, then it never really began. If you've missed the message, we're about to embark on a journey of never-ending Christmas, and it starts now.
Get ready for Christmas miracles.
Get ready for Zuzu All Grown Up.
He goes by many names: Pierre Noel, Santa Claus, Moosh Krashoon, Papa Noel, Saint Nicholas, Kris Kringle. But whatever you call him, he is a symbol of childhood and of magic and merriment the world over. And he is real. Another name some call him is Santa Rick, and he's our guest today. Welcome to the show. Karolyn and Chris, over to you.
Today we have Santa Rick. Welcome to the show. How long have you been Santa Claus?
I've been Santa for 55 years. This is my 56th year. I started when I was 16 and I'm 72.
Did you know Santa as a child? And did knowing him or missing him in your life contribute to your desire to be Santa?
It started out as something funny, and now the joke's on me. But I didn't grow up wanting to be Santa, and most of the Claus family doesn't even know they're Clauses until it happens.
What made you want to be Santa?
So I was 16, and I was always a kind of out-of-the-box guy. And I decided one winter I would just dress up like Santa for my classmates, and they'd either think I was crazy or that I was really funny. And it turned out they thought it was really funny. And 16, 17, 18 in high school, it was something fun to do. But then after high school, that's when I was children that weren't friends or family, and it changed the game. And that's when really Santa took on a special meaning.
Is the magic of Santa Claus for all children?
The magic of Santa. is for all children of all ages, because everyone on this earth is somebody's child. And it doesn't matter if you're 2 or 92, Santa's very magical.
So for those who claim that Santa's not real, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, first of all, they're wrong. And that's okay to be wrong. You know, we learn from the time we're born, hopefully until our last day. And there are things you can learn. Children know Santa's real when they're young, and adults know Santa's real when they're old. It's in the middle when you start learning a lot of information and you start thinking you're really smarter than you are, that you sometimes, not everybody, you sometimes believe Santa isn't real. But Santa not only is real, but he lives in all of us. A piece of us, all of us have Santa in them. Santa's an amazing guy because he's filled with imagination and hope. And we all have imagination and hope. So therefore, Santa lives in us just for that reason alone. And there are many, many other reasons.
So what kind of values does Santa most embody?
Santa is non-judgmental, universally accepting. An example I use is if you were a bank robber and you were in jail, Santa would come visit you on Visitor's Day. He wouldn't bring you a gift, though, because you broke the law. He doesn't care if you're in jail because you had hungry children you were trying to feed, or you're just a mean person who likes to rob banks. He loves you regardless, but you broke the law, so you don't get presents. But he accepts that you are you, because we are all who we are. We are all hopefully trying to be nicer and better and kinder, because kindness is really what the world's about, and believing in a higher spiritual force and leaving the world a better place.
Santa Rick, you are known as the Jewish Santa Claus, and you live on streets that are named after Christmas. I mean, your town that you live in come together for you?
First of all, it proves that God has a sense of humor. But aside from that, so I live in a neighborhood called Mary Hills, and Mary Hills has streets like Rudolph, Reindeer, Mary, Christmas, Jody, Bramble, Holly, and the neighborhood has always been about 95 to 98% Jewish. Originally, when it was built, it was conservative Jews, and the neighborhood has since become almost totally Orthodox over the past 50 years. And there's a bunch of synagogues there. And as a matter of fact, my synagogue, which is Orthodox, is the only synagogue in the world. And you would think what I'm getting ready to tell you would apply to a Reformed or conservative synagogue, but it's Orthodox. My synagogue is the only synagogue in the world between Mary and Christmas.
What do members of your community think about the fact that you are Santa Claus, or that you're Santa?
So I've lived in the neighborhood since October of '63, and I know 5 generations of people. Well, they're not all there, but 3 generations are still there. And everyone just knows me as Santa Rick. My family, who's watched me grow up, they know me as Santa Rick. I used to be Cousin Ricky or Rick, but everybody calls me Santa Rick except for one child who calls me Mr. Frosenthal, because my last name is Rosenthal. Everybody calls me Santa or Santa Rick. My rabbi, everybody.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, do you have a school or some kind of a teaching process that you help other Santas some places?
So, as I said, I started out when I was 16, and about 12 years ago, well, actually 13 years this spring, both my parents passed away 13 years ago in the next few weeks. My mother tomorrow will be 13 years, and my dad 18 days later. And in the Jewish religion, when you lose a parent, you stop shaving. And even though I had a beard that was mostly white, it came in white. And so in the spring, almost 13 years ago, I was at Home Depot in the section in the garden center where you can see through the whole store. And a little boy changed my life and made it where I'm Santa all year round. I wish I knew who he was. I'd like to thank him. But because before that, I was just seasonally Santa. What happened was I was looking for losing both parents 18 days apart changes your mental state somewhat. And I just, at Home Depot, one of my favorite places in their garden center, because one of my hobbies when I'm not at the North Pole, because you can't grow anything there. And so I was just looking for plants and flowers that came in. And I heard this little boy say, Santa. Santa. And I tried to ignore him, and I just mentally I wasn't in the right place. And you have to be on to be Santa all the time. And it was the last time I wasn't on all the time, as a matter of fact. And turned around to him, and his dad was leaning the opposite direction. He was jerking on his dad's shirt on the side, and dad was ignoring him. And I looked at him, and I went over to him and got right in his face and went, "Shh, don't tell anyone you saw Santa buying tools for the elves here." And I turned and walked away, but I went through the door into the main store and stopped at every aisle looking back. And the little child still had a death grip on his dad's shirt and was still bent over looking at me like a deer in headlights. And when I got to the last row, which is like 20 rows later, I just took a left and went to the back corner and stayed there 45 minutes. And it was during those 45 minutes, because I didn't want to explain to him how I was driving, because I can explain that Santa does have a car. That was the last time I wasn't always on. And even though I snapped into being on to answer him, when I walked away, I needed to just be me because I was mourning my parents still. And so while I was in the back corner, it dawned on me that what I really need to do is be Santa all year round. So I was there 45 minutes. I decided he's got to be gone, and I left. At that point, my life had changed. And at that point, I slowly, over the next couple of months, figured out how to be Santa all year round. There were several things to do. There are jobs all year round. We started a school. I'd been to almost every school that existed, and we decided, my wife and I, that we could raise the bar in the Santa industry. And in every school, not just in the Santa industry, in every school, there's no bad school. You may learn more at one than the other, but there are no bad schools. You're learning. That's what you're there to do. But we thought we could raise the bar because it's basically been the Wild West in the Christmas industry. And so we started Northern Lights Santa Academy. And we do so many things different. And then with that, we also started the National Santa Agency so that more people could get professionally trained Christmas performers. Because America grew up on a guy in a red outfit, red costume, and for the most part, a traditional beard. And in the past 25 years, that's changed. And now you can get a professional Christmas performer. And I can tell you, it's a different holiday for those who sit with Santa and for Santa than it was before education. And I do want to put a caveat in there. Just because you go to school doesn't mean you're going to make a good Christmas performer. But like any trade, you do need to learn the basics and the advanced skills. And if you don't have that, it's going to be a lot harder to be a professional. And also a professional in any industry invests in themselves and has continuous education. And the thing about Christmas is it's 6 weeks basically for Christmas. And so whether you're a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, lawyer, doctor, whatever, if you only do that for 6 weeks and take 10 and a half months off, you're going to forget what you're doing. So in Santa Rick's world, in my world, you have to have continuous education all throughout the year to be able to be a professional Christmas performer. So it's not just school, but it's going to meetings that are available and just so many other things that are available now that weren't years ago.
Wow, it's a way of life.
So how would you suggest that people of diverse religious backgrounds might interpret the season of Christmas and Santa, even if they have their own holidays and beliefs?
So let me answer that this way. First of all, every organized religion basically believes in the same thing, a higher spiritual force. And so therefore, there's no problem with Christmas, in my mind, in Santa Rick's world, being a Christian holiday or a Jewish holiday, because it's more about a season. And so not only does it believe in a higher force, spiritual force, but it believes that you should leave the world a better place. And they believe that you should do unto others as you would do unto yourself. And with those basic three precepts, and there are more, there are no boundaries of religion, because that's really what all religions teach, is just goodness. Now, another side note is Christmas is a season. July 4th, it's a day. Labor Day, day. Thanksgiving, it's a day. Easter, it's a day. Christmas is the only thing that's really a season, and it's really the best part of the year for the world, whether they celebrate on the 25th or some people celebrate in January, the Greek Orthodox. But regardless of when you celebrate, it's a season, and it brings out the best in everybody, because even Ebenezer Scrooge was nice on Christmas Eve. So there shouldn't be any problem. And for those that think, well, okay, he's Jewish, what's the deal? My answer that I give people is these questions. First of all, do you have any problem with Jewish people owning toy stores? Answer is always no. And the next question is, do you have any problem with doctors that are Jewish or nurses that are Jewish working on Christmas Eve so that the non-Jews can take off? And the answer is always no. And then my third question is, and when you find a child that needs help, do you ask them what religion they are first? And the answer is no. And so again, those three things transcend everything. You can always look to make a problem, but those three things eliminate any problem that anybody can come up with.
Would you ever deliver gifts on Hanukkah, like Christmas night?
If it's the Sabbath, there's a problem. But if it's not, there's not. I will tell you, this is an interesting story. So I got a call from a fellow. His name was Jakob, and heavy Russian accent. And this is before COVID. So it's probably about 10 years ago, probably 8 years ago. And he says to me, I want you to come on this date. And I said, I'm booked that date. He says, well, I need you that date. And I said, what is that? He said, it's the first night of Hanukkah. And I said, well, I'm booked. I can't come. I can come the next night. He says, okay. And I said, so you sound Russian. He said, yes. And he got a little weird then. And I said, I don't quite understand. I have reason to believe that you're probably in your 30s. And he said, yes, I am. And so when I said that, he got kind of a little more skitty. And I said, if you're in your 30s, that means you were probably part of the group that came out of Russia when they let all the Jews out. And he said, yes, that's true. And I said, so what's your name? He said, Jakob. I said, okay. And what's your last name? And he said, oh, you won't know it. I said, yes, I will. And so he gave me his last name, which I don't remember. And I said, okay. I said, so I have to ask the question, why do you want Santa to come on Hanukkah to your house? He said, well, I grew up with religious persecution, and I want my children to understand other religions because I don't want to be like that. I said, perfect. Who's coming? Oh, it's just my wife and I and our children. I said, okay, I have a special treat for you. He says, what's that? I said, I'm Jewish. He said, you're kidding. I said, no. And not only will I come and talk about Christmas, but I'll actually light the menorah, sing the blessings, and tell you about Hanukkah as well. He says, great. Well, that's where the story should end, but...
We'll join Karolyn and Chris in just a moment with more of Zuzu All Grown Up.
First, an important message.
Start your morning right with premium coffee roasts available at ZuzuNetwork.com and drink them in your Zuzu All Grown Up coffee mug. Also perfect for tea and hot chocolate.
Stay inspired throughout the day with the same gratitude journal used by Karolyn and Chris, and check out t-shirts, hats, books, Christmas keepsakes, and more at ZuzuNetwork.com/shop.
Are you wondering whether to sell or donate the car you no longer need or want? Consider that. Donating it to a legitimate, legally recognized nonprofit organization, not only will you receive a tax deduction, but you'll be contributing to a worthy cause. Finding a worthy nonprofit organization can be time-consuming and even a bit stressful. I'm here to present to you one of the most amazing, legitimate 501c3 nonprofit organizations in the world. The United Breast Cancer Foundation. The UBCF provides screenings, treatments, aftercare services, educational materials, as well as patient and family assistance. We ask that you help in that mission by donating your unwanted or unused vehicle to the UBCF. Simply call 888-842-5505. The process is fast and easy. Call 888-842-5505. 888-842-5505. Help us in our mission and get a tax deduction. Call 888-842-5505. Thank you for your support.
A careless driver can change your life in an instant. Do you know what to do or who to call? If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident and don't have an attorney, call Auto Accident Help Desk for a free consultation. We can answer all of your questions and estimate the potential value of your case. Call Auto Accident Help Desk and connect with an expert personal injury attorney.
Call 800-297-9766. 800-297-9766.
Don't worry how to handle your medical bills, lost wages, and pain. We will get you the money you deserve.
They got me way more than the insurance company offered.
The consultation is free, and you don't pay any legal fees unless we win or settle your case. Make the smart call if you've been injured in an auto accident. Call Auto Accident Help Desk for a free legal consultation.
Call 800-297-9766. 800-297-9766. 800-297-9766.
Auto Accident Help Desk.
Join Zuzu's network today at ZuzuNetwork.com/join.
Karolyn is creating an international network of aspiring angels, everyday people who believe that they can help make the world a better place by making life better for even just one other person.
Let us know you want to earn your wings at zuzunetwork.com/join, and Karolyn and Chris will send you inspirational material to support you in your journey.
May all your days be merry and bright.
And may the light of Christmas brighten your life this holiday season. You're listening to Zuzu, all grown up.
8 o'clock in the morning, the second day of Hanukkah. And I said, hello, this is Jacob. I said, what's the matter? It didn't make sense for him to call at 8 in the morning. He says, my house caught fire. I said, what? He said, my house caught fire. He said, I had a wooden menorah. I said, you don't want a wooden menorah. Are you okay? He says, yeah, we're fine. I said, all right. So he says, you can't come. We'll do it next year. I said, that's fine. So about 6 months later, he calls me, and he's calling me every 2 weeks, starting 6 months later, so I can be there the first night of Hanukkah. I said, great. And every 2 weeks, he's calling me. And about 2 months before Hanukkah, I said, are you sure you want to do this? Last time we had a Jewish Santa come in to light the menorah and tell about Christmas, your house burned down. Are you sure God's not trying to send you a message? He said, no, come. I went, and of course, when I got there were like 30 children at least, and a bunch of parents, because everybody had to know about it now. And it was really a great experience. The children loved hearing about Christmas and from a Jewish perspective, and they loved hearing about Hanukkah and having me light the menorah and tell them about blessings and the Maccabees. It was an incredible evening, and it was really beautiful. They were all little Russian immigrants and their children, and it was just a magnificent night.
Wow. I bet you've had a lot of those.
Thank God I have.
Some ways I think it's a blessing that you are a Jewish Santa Claus. I think in this day and age, we need to transcend the boundaries, the barriers that we have between each other. And, look at the likenesses, the human kindness.
The thing about Santa in Santa Rick's world is that the core of our being is imagination. When we're born, not when we're born, once our mind starts to work, we can imagine anything. There's no limits. And adults do this to adults, but also to children. They teach them the word no. No is perhaps one of the biggest problems. It's one of the worst things we can do to each other is teach each other no. When your child says, I want to go to Bobby's, or I want to go have ice cream, or I want to go there or do this, we say no. What we should be saying is, well, if you eat ice cream, you're going to get a stomach ache. If you go swimming, you're going to drown. Whatever the situation, you have to do this or you don't have to do that, but explain why. Don't say no, because no stifles imagination. And here's the key to imagination in Santa Rick's world. Imagination is the stepping stone to hope. If we don't have hope, we have nothing. And so it has to be imagination first and hope second. For example, if you thought our country was going to go to war and we didn't have any chance of winning, what would you do? Wouldn't be pretty. And if you are a soldier and you are sent over to the front and you didn't have imagination and hope and imagination that you could win, what are you going to do when you get there? And then when you show up on the field and there's 500 of us and 5,000 of them, if you can't imagine that we're going to beat them, what are you going to do? And then if you get caught and you're in a camp, if you can't imagine getting out of the war ending, what are you going to do? So imagination is crucial for our survival. That's what keeps us alive, is hope, which comes from imagination.
So have you ever watched It's a Wonderful Life?
Yes. Yes.
And what did you
I understand you're a very special part of that.
Yes, I am. I said the line, Daddy, teacher says, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's really neat. That's very special. You should know that.
I feel honored that I was chosen to be that little girl.
You have to send me an autographed picture for my office.
I'd love to. What message did you take away from that film?
It's about hope and imagination. It's really what it's about. And kindness, but more about hope and imagination. If you can't hope for good things and imagine good things, we're in trouble. I think it's that simple. I mean, you could go into a lot of other areas, but really it's that simple and it's that global.
It truly is. I like it. You kind of put it, encapsulates it very simply and easily. And I think that if you wear a red vest and you have a big white beard with Santa on your shirt, it's easy to get that message across. People go, oh yeah, there's the ambassador of hope and imagination. There he is. So, what led you to start the National Santa Agency?
So we started the school to provide more professional Christmas performers, and then we realized we needed to help people get what we had produced. So we started the agency, and our rules are stricter than any other agency. And we've developed a really good reputation with Hollywood. We put our Santas in Lifetime movies and Hallmark movies and national commercials and billboards. We also work with Fortune 500 companies. Two that are in Atlanta would be Chick-fil-A and Coke, but we have clients all over the world. And we started the agency again because we wanted the schools to help you be the best Christmas performer you can be. The agency is to help people get the best Christmas performer they can get because it's not somebody who just thought it'd be fun. It's very special. You have to have a love for yourself in your heart to be Santa. You have to, and I'm not talking about narcissism, I'm talking about loving yourself in a healthy way. And you have to love everybody else. And it doesn't mean that the world is perfect. It's not. It doesn't mean everybody's wonderful. They're not. But you have to love them in spite of that because it's just what you need to do to be Santa, because that's who Santa is. And actually, the whole North Pole's that way. Mrs. Claus is wonderful. They get a little nippy sometimes, but they're good. And the elves they're crazy, but they're a lot of fun too.
I have to say, in my line of work as a therapist, a lot of the messaging is exactly what you're trying to say here in different words. You have to be able to love yourself, but appreciate yourself in a way that it's like you value who you are so that you can share those gifts with others. I mean, there's nothing more touching than being able to share with others. I mean, it just makes the world go around. My imagination isn't advanced as yours because I don't run around on a sled. You're very verbose when it comes to that way.
Give you a comparison to let you know that you could be Santa. We can sanitize you. You've got a beard seed here. We could fix that, but you're a therapist, you said, right?
Yeah.
So here's the comparison for what you do and what I do. You deal with people who you know who they are, and you're getting paid to do it, which is nothing wrong with that. And you can have them for as long as you want. 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 years, 10 years. Santa gets strangers for 2 minutes. And no matter what they say, we have to address it. And we have to address it well. And we don't know what their agenda is. Sometimes it's hidden. Sometimes it's real. Sometimes it's not. That's part of the training is you have to learn how to do that. And you have to do it in 2 minutes. You could be Santa. You could be a Claus. I'm saying there's hope for you.
I guess as I was listening to you, I've been inspired. I've been thinking, no, I see a lot of myself in him.
I see a lot of myself in you.
So when all the Santa Clauses get together, I guess it would be a convention or a school that you have during the year. What do you teach them as a Santa Claus?
There are gatherings, which is just where we get together and do nothing. Gathering, it's usually not any teaching, although there's sometimes a class or two. And at a convention, there's usually a few classes. And then at school, there's very impressive. Our school, the Northern Lights Santa Academy, is called an academy rather than a school because an academy is a place of higher learning. And so we have a much more intense schedule of what we do. It doesn't mean, again, there's no bad schools. All schools are great. You could go to the University of California or the University of Florida. Both use the same books, teach the same thing, but you pick one over the other because you think you're going to get more out of it. And we like to believe that our school provides the biggest bang that you can get in general. And we do a lot of things different than everyone else. Is it better? I don't know, but I believe it is. And I've been to almost every school that existed until we opened our school, and I've been to several since then.
So, Santa Rick, what are some of the most magical moments that you've had as Santa?
Well, there's funny ones and there's sad ones. A good Santa is going to cry tears of joy and tears of sadness, and that's a fact. And it comes with exposure. Obviously, if you see one child, you're not going to necessarily have both. But when you start seeing hundreds and thousands of children, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and then thousands, you hear it all several times. And you get asked for all kinds of things. And some you have to decide what they mean because it could be good or bad. Like, for example, I had a child ask me for a bathroom. Is this a homeless child? Or is this a child with 7 siblings? And I knew instantly, just from looking around at his family, it was a child with 7 siblings. and he wanted his own bathroom. He didn't want to share. But you have to know how to respond to that. There's the therapist part. But there are some really beautiful things that happen and some really sad things. One of the most impactful moments as Santa for me goes back probably 8 or 10 years. And I was sitting, and this little boy about 5 comes running up, jumps in my lap, and he's on my left knee. And his mother is probably about 30 and maybe 35, and she sits right beside me. So even though the child is looking towards his mother, he's looking me eye to eye, nose to nose. He doesn't see his mother. And I said, "What would you like for Christmas?" And he says, "A trampoline." I said, "Oh my goodness, a trampoline." Now, whenever we're asked for anything, you have to, first of all, understand that there's a lot of things that could happen that make it where you don't get what you asked for. One is, even if it's in the car while they're visiting with me, the car could be stolen. 2, if it's in the house under the tree, that night the house could catch on fire. For me to promise anything, I need to know that it's going to get there, and can't do that. So I talked to the elves, and they're really good, and I don't think anybody's ever gotten a bad present, but they may not get exactly what they asked for. But the little boy says, "You don't want a trampoline," and he's so proud of himself, and he's nose to nose with me. And I didn't notice his mother at that moment, but I look over at her for a second and then look back, and I said, "A trampoline? Oh my goodness, you know what? I don't think that's going to fit in my bag. How about something else?" And he says, "No, Santa, not a big trampoline, a little trampoline." I said, "You mean like a 3-foot big one, like this big?" And I held my arms out. "And you do exercises on it?" And he goes, "No, Santa, not that one." I said, "What else is there?" And he holds his little hands up and he does this. And he says, "A little trampoline this big." And he stops. And his voice changes and his face changes. And he was so excited. And I said, and I knew then I was in over my head. And I said, "What do you want a little trampoline like that for?" And at the same moment, same time, he says, "For my little brother." And his mother says, "He lost his brother." And I look at her, and it was really unbelievable. There is water coming out of her eyes like a hose. It wasn't drips, it was pouring. It was weird. It was beautiful. It was sad, but it was weird. And I look at him, and he is so proud of himself. Even though his voice changed, he still had his hand up, and he's looking at me. He doesn't see his mother. And I said, "Oh, that's very special. I'm going to try and do something for you that I've never done for anyone else." He said, "What's that, Santa?" I said, "Well," and I look back over at his mother, and the muscles on her face are moving, and she's not making a sound, and water's pouring out of her eyes. And thank God the little boy didn't see her. She was really melting, and he was so happy. And I said, "What I'm going to do," this was like 2 weeks before Christmas. I said, "I'm going to go back, and I'm going to talk to the elves and tell them exactly what you told me, why you want this little trampoline, because I've never seen a trampoline that little, but I know the elves can make a trampoline like that. And so I know we're going to make a trampoline for your brother. But here's the hard part. I know your little brother's in heaven, and I've never delivered presents in heaven." He says, "I know you can do it, Santa." And I said, "Well, you know what? I'm going to try. I'm going to leave early before Christmas so I can go way up high up into heaven if I can get there. And hopefully the reindeer can make the trip, and they may have to rest. But I'm going to go. If I can, I'm going to take him that little trampoline." And I've got to tell you, I've been Santa 55 years. That moment, I don't remember anything after that. I don't ever remember him getting off my lap, his mother leaving. I do remember her blouse was soaking wet in less than 30 seconds. And she was just melted. I do remember how happy he was. But the next thing I remember from that is I was sitting in the parking lot, because when stuff like that happens, you can't drive. I'm sitting in the parking lot, and I call my best friend, Jay. I said, "Jay, I got a problem." Because one of the things we teach at school is you have to have someone to decompress with when you have one of these moments. And I said, "Jay, I got a problem." He says, "What is it?" I told him the story. I said, "Tell me what just happened, because I'm really messed up." I was crying too. He said, "Oh, it's real easy." I said, "Jay, come on, really, what's going on?" He says, "It's real easy." I said, "Well, I need to hear it. What is it?" He says, "It's about humility." I said, "What?" He said, "Humility." I said, "You kidding me?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "It's real simple." I said, "You got to help me, Jay. I'm lost." He said, "The little boy loved his little brother, and he knew how little his little brother's soul was. And he knew his little brother would have liked a trampoline, but his soul was only that big around. He just needed a little trampoline for his little soul. I probably lost about 2 or 3 thousand pounds. I was able to maneuver again. Still sat there quite a while, but Jay was right. It's about humility. And that little boy understood that. I didn't. He did. There's so much to learn from children of all ages, whether they're 4 or 94. But that was perhaps the most striking moment in my Santa career as far as a tough moment. Funniest moment, it was a 106-year-old lady, Santa group, and we were all out to dinner. There were 300 of us in a private room. And I went to go to the bathroom, and down the steps by the elevator was this 106-year-old lady. She didn't look it. And her children, they looked like they were in their 70s, but they were in their 80s and 90s. Her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren, 4 generations, all of them. Santa, come over here. It's my mother's birthday. I said, okay, happy birthday. And I sang happy birthday to her. I said, what do you want? She says, oh, Santa. And she looks at me and she grabs my arm and pets it. She says, I want a husband.
We'll join Karolyn and Chris in just a moment with more of Zuzu All Grown Up.
First, an important message.
To find out more about the organization featured in today's episode or a previous episode and to learn more about how you can help, go to zuzunetwork.com/beanangel.
I always had to be so good, no one could ignore me. Carve my path with data and drive. But some people only see who I am on paper. The paper ceiling, the limitations from degree screens to stereotypes that are holding back over 70 million stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time for skills to speak for themselves. Find resources for breaking through barriers at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
This is an important announcement for anyone who wants health insurance, even if you missed the deadline. Right now, you can get the health insurance you and your family need from top insurance providers, even if you have pre-existing conditions or no insurance at all. The Plus Benefits Health Insurance toll-free number has been extended to help anyone who wants health insurance coverage now, or if you need a better plan or a lower price. Call Plus Benefits Health Insurance now at 800-332-1993. The call is 100% free and the help is real. Call 800-332-1993. That's 800-332-1993.
Imagine having all the money you need for retirement, all the income, every month, guaranteed. That's Secure Future Investor, an indexed annuity tied to growth in the stock market, but without any risk of loss ever. It's guaranteed money for life income, no matter how long you live. Call 888-288-7088, 888-288-7088. Sponsored by GP Agency Inc., Raleigh, NC. Licensed in all states. Performance may vary. Consult your financial professional before making an investment decision.
1 out of 8 women in the United States will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. And the chances are you know at least one person who's been personally affected. But right now, you can help. It's simple. Donate your unwanted vehicle, RV, or trailer to the United Breast Cancer Foundation. It's the easiest way to contribute to one of the nation's leading charitable organizations. The process is fast, easy, and free. Not only will you be helping, but you'll also receive a tax deduction. The United Breast Cancer Foundation offers an array of programs and services that help and support families and individuals dealing with breast cancer. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. Simply give us a call to get started, and we'll schedule a pickup date that is convenient for you. If you have any questions you would like answered before initiating the donation process, please feel free to call us toll-free at 800-324-6218. That's 800-324-6218. 800-324-6218.
Zuzu's book club features recommendations from Zuzu herself on books she loves and thinks you will love also. All of the books that the club reads, fiction and nonfiction, are inspirational and uplifting. Folks, this is a life-enhancing club to be part of. You can sign up for free at zuzunetwork.com/book club. That's zuzunetwork.com/book club. Today's special is Sibley's Christmas Adventure by veteran TV journalist Don Alhart. In this whimsical children's book, you'll relive the magic of the Sibley department store in downtown Rochester, New York, as Sibley the mouse has an incredible Christmas adventure that the whole family is sure to enjoy. To order your copy of Sibley's Christmas Adventure, go to www.zuzunetwork.com. That's www.zuzunetwork.com. shop.zuzunetwork.com or Amazon or wherever you buy your books. Sibley's Christmas Adventure is available in ebook form also.
Wishing you a Merry Christmas and the happiest New Year.
You're listening to Zuzu All Grown Up.
I said, come with me. I didn't go to the bathroom. I went back upstairs. The door to the room we were in was in the corner. There's 300 people. Whistle real loud. It drops real silent because everybody's talking and laughing. I said, everybody, this is Mrs. So-and-so. I gave him her name. I said, she is 106 today. Let's sing happy birthday. And so we sang happy birthday the way we sing it at the North Pole, which I taught everybody, which is, we wish you a happy birthday. We wish you a happy birthday. We wish you a happy birthday and a happy new year. America has the right words, just the wrong tune, but that's okay. We give away everything at the North Pole, not just presents. But anyway, so all these guys sing to her. And then I said, now, this is her birthday wish. She wants a husband. Who here would like to marry her? And the table closest to it, God has a sense of humor. It's really amazing. The biggest guy in the whole room, tallest and biggest, stands up and he had a voice out of a barrel and he says, I'll marry you. And she goes, oh my, that one's too big. She weighed about 90 pounds and was like 4'10" because she'd been shrinking. And so another guy says, okay, I'll marry. And she looks at me and goes, maybe I'll just wait. But that was just, and we get lots of funny things. We get asked for all kinds of things. And a lot of things are moving. I send my Santas out and we, at the agency, we try to find out everything, but you can't find out everything. I sent one Santa to a home. It was just one child, about a 5-year-old child. And Santa had a wonderful visit with the mom and dad and the child. And he goes to leave and the wife says, Santa, will you stand out on the porch and take one more picture? He says, sure. And so she walks in the door. He stands out there and then she comes back with an urn. And she says, would you take a picture with my child? We don't have a picture of him with Santa. So he's standing there holding an urn, taking a picture. The thing about being a Claus member is you are trusted and loved more than any parent or grandparent. There's a lot of love for grandparents, not so much for parents, but for grandparents, it's pretty much a free ride. And you're loved more than that. And it's an amazing experience. It's so humbling. It really is. And you see it regularly. When we go to a senior facility where there's memory losses, it's so moving because I'll go in and I'll be with someone very old and they don't know their husband or wife of 60 years, 70 years. They don't know their children of 50 years, but they know me. And it's so humbling and so moving. And it's embarrassing if their children are there because they know me and they don't know them. But it's just such a beautiful thing. And sometimes people will talk to you, whether they're children or adults, when they've stopped talking. It's a miracle what Santa can do. Santa changes lives.
More personal level, understand that you went through a bout of cancer.
Twice, stage 4.
Age 4, my goodness. And I was watching the documentary on it, and you never lost your spirit throughout the whole thing. You were always, no matter what stage radiation treatment you were getting.
So the first cancer I had, 62, it was probably 10 years ago. I'm not sure. You try to block those things out. And I had radiation. And I think radiation is the worst thing you can do, but the cancer's gone. And then in 2 weeks before COVID, I had cancer in my thighs, soft tissue cancer, and I had chemo. And my doctor is one of my favorite 3 doctors and perhaps the sweetest and kindest of all of them. And I've got some really good doctors. As you get older, you get more doctors than friends, but he's a very special man. Not because he cured me, just the way he dealt with things. But anyway, had cancer twice, totally unrelated. Again, in Santa Rick's world, we're born to die. And that's going to happen whenever. It's the way we live that matters, not the way we die. So you need to enjoy life and you need to embrace movement because there were days I would come home every day and sleep that day, except to go to the bathroom and I'd eat in bed the first couple of days. And then the second day, I would walk around my living room as much as I could. And the third day, I'd walk around my yard. And the fourth day, I'd walk to the neighbor's yard. And the fifth day, and so I had a regiment. During the whole treatment, it was the same every time. I would go as far as I could. And the first day it was just around the house. Second day was around the yard because it knocked you out. The radiation did. But with the chemo, even though it makes you feel sick, I kept moving too. And you have to keep moving. And that's not just physically, and especially physically, but you have to keep moving mentally. And so I think it's real important to embrace life. It's real important to embrace life, and I love life.
You were inducted into the International Santa Claus Hall of Fame. And that's
Yes,
quite an
ma'am.
honor, I would think. Can you tell us about
Yes.
that experience?
Yes, ma'am. So the International Santa Claus Hall of Fame has less than 120 people that have been inducted since its inception and isn't that old of an organization. I should know how old it is, but I'm just going to say 20 years, but don't hold me to that. During that time, about 40 or a third of the people were inducted after they were deceased. So they were inducted posthumously, like C.W. Howard, who was the first Macy's Day Santa with a real beard. He was inducted after the fact. And there were many others inducted after the fact. About a third of the people, another 40, have since passed away. That leaves about 40 of us, a little less than 40 of us alive. So when I got inducted, I really didn't know how I got in. I still don't. I don't know why, because I got to tell you, I'm nobody special. I really am honored and humbled that I'm in. I don't understand why. I think there's some other Santas that are fantastic or more deserving than me, but I'm very thankful and proud that I'm in. But I went online and started reading everybody's bio, and that's when I realized that basically a third were inducted after they died, a third are dead. And so, because I have a twisted sense of humor, I decided I didn't get inducted because I'm such a good Santa. It's either because they're going to kill me or they're hoping I'm going to die.
So finally, what is your favorite snack? Are you cookies and milk? Or I guess now we understand why so many Christmas candies have kosher symbols on them.
Well, I'd like to take credit for the kosher symbols on the candy, but has nothing to do with me. My favorite is, of course, cookies and milk, and my favorite cookie is a round one, homemade. You thought I was going to say something else, didn't you? But my favorite cookies are round. They make tree-shaped ones and reindeer-shaped ones and star-shaped ones. I like the round ones.
Sugar cookies?
Love sugar cookies. You know, Santa is really fond of sugar. It's true.
Thank you for joining us, Santa Rick.
It's my pleasure. I would like to say that I hope that everyone understands the North Pole is a very special place that's very magical all year round. And that on Christmas Eve, there's a very special magic because that's when Christmas spirit is at its highest. And that's when the most miracles happen. And if you're a believer, anything's possible. And the North Pole is not just a place for toys. We give away everything, songs, music, everything. We didn't give away politicians because we never had any, but we give away everything else. And if nothing else, just ask yourself this: what would Santa say or what would Santa do? And be magical in your response because anybody can change the world.
Well, thank you for joining us.
So thank you. And it should be a wonderful year for you and your husband, as well as all your listeners.
Thank you, Santa Rick, Karolyn, and Chris. I think I speak for everyone listening when I say we have a much deeper and profound understanding of what it means to be Santa Claus, what he represents, and just how special the magic and glory of good old Saint Nick really is. Happy holidays! We'll be right back.
Do you know someone who is earning their wings? Someone practicing kindness and service to others? Perhaps an organization or initiative helping make the world we live in a kinder, sweeter place.
Or maybe you've witnessed the miraculous, the divine, the magnificent in some way in your life, and you'd like to share it with others. Go to zuzunetwork.com/tellmystory and let us know more.
You may end up being featured on an upcoming episode of Zuzu All Grown Up. That's zuzunetwork.com/tellmystory. Now here's Seth Kennedy with today's parting thoughts.
A letter to the Chicago Sun, 1897. Dear Editor, I am 8 years old. Some of my friends say that there is no Santa Claus. Papa says if you see it in the sun, it is so. Please tell me the truth. Is there a Santa Claus? Virginia, your little friends are wrong. They have been affected by the skepticism of a skeptical age. They do not believe except what they see. They think that nothing can be which is not comprehensible by their little minds. All minds, Virginia, whether they be men's or children's are little. In this great universe of ours, man is a mere insect, an ant in his intellect, as compared with the boundless world about him, as measured by the intelligence capable of grasping the whole of truth and knowledge. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. He exists as certainly as love and generosity and devotion exist. And you know that they abound and give to our life its highest beauty and joy. Alas, how dreary would the world be if there were no Santa Claus? It would be as dreary as if there were no Virginias. There would be no childlike faith, no poetry, no romance to make tolerable this existence. We should have no enjoyment except in sense and sight. The eternal light with which childhood fills the world would be extinguished. Not believe in Santa Claus? You might as well not believe in fairies. You might get your papa to hire men to watch all the chimneys on Christmas Eve to catch Santa Claus, but even if they did not see Santa Claus coming down, what would that prove? Nobody sees Santa Claus, but that is no sign that there is no Santa Claus. The most real things in the world are those that neither children nor men can see. Did you ever see fairies dancing on the lawn? Of course not. But that's no proof that they are not there. Nobody can conceive or imagine all the wonders that are unseen and unseeable in the world. You tear apart the baby's rattle to see what makes the noise inside. But there is a veil covering the unseen world which not the strongest man, or even the united strength of all the strongest men that ever lived, could tear apart. Only faith, fancy, poetry, love, and romance can push aside that curtain and view and picture the supernatural beauty and glory beyond. Is it all real? Oh, Virginia, in all this world there is nothing else as real and abiding. No Santa Claus. Thank God he lives and lived forever, 1,000 years from now, maybe 10 times 10,000 years from now. He will continue to make glad the hearts of children. There are, in fact, Santas busy at work all around the world. Perhaps that is the secret to how he delivers so many toys to so many children all in one night. One Christmas you may even find yourself saying, "Ho, ho, ho," hopefully without that belly that shakes like a bowl full of jelly. I want to share a quote with you from one of my favorite Christmas movies, the original 1947 Miracle on 34th Street. Christmas isn't just a day, it's a frame of mind. Whether you are in the midst of Christmas or even when the season is long gone, it's your frame of mind that makes it truly Christmas. When Christmas comes, and when it seemingly concludes, if you can make your frame of mind a Christmas one, it will always truly be Christmas in your heart. You won't be buying gifts every day or eating turkey, but you will be doing the labors of Christmas and of loving your fellow man in word and deed. You'll be making it your job to make others merry and not be miserly, and the light of Christmas will surround you throughout the year like a bright halo. Helen Steiner Rice said peace on earth will come to stay when we live Christmas every day. Wishing you a peace on earth and goodwill to all. This has been Zuzu, all grown up.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Zuzu, all grown up.
We hope you've been inspired to live your most wonderful life now and to help those around you do the same.
Remember, no matter what you're going through, no matter who you are, There are people who care about you, and your life makes a difference.
It is a wonderful life.
Check out ZuzuNetwork.com for more on today's and other episodes, including transcripts and merchandise you won't want to be without.
New episodes are coming soon.
Keep listening to Zuzu All Grown Up throughout the holiday season for more uplifting content that will help connect you with the true meaning of the season.
That's all December long on Zuzu All Grown Up.
For transcripts of today's broadcast, go to ZuzuNetwork.com/transcripts. Zuzu All Grown Up with your hosts Karolyn Grimes and Dr. Chris Brunell.
Announcer and guide Seth Kennedy.
Executive producer Kevin R. Stillmock.
Coordinating producer Holly Ann Way.
Technical producer Stella Joel.
Managing producer Karina Filatova.
A Wonderful Land production.
In collaboration with Radio Wonderful.